Greetings, traveler between worlds. Tonight, I'll be your guide on a journey that doesn't begin with a step, but with a breath. What I'm about to share isn't kept in Kami-sama's halls, nor stored in the angel's archives. It's a memory whispered by time, forgotten by gods, yet alive in the heart of the universe. They speak of a name, Trunks, also called the Time Traveler. I see you've come this far with tired eyes, like someone who's trained too hard, or felt it too deeply. Maybe you're exhausted. Maybe you're carrying more than you should. Dreams, losses, old promises. So come, sit with me here, by this fire, atop the tower. The wind moves gently, and the sky seems to breathe with you. Let the warmth of the flame hold you, and let each word light a lantern inside your silence. Here, there's no rush, no battle, no demands, just stories, the kind we listen to with closed eyes, as if they were memories we haven't lived yet. Ready? Take a deep breath, let go of the weight, and come with me. The journey begins now, and maybe, by the end, you'll discover that true power was never in the Kai, but in peace. The evening sky spreads like spilled watercolors above Capsule Corporation. Lavender hair moves softly in the breeze as Trunks sits alone on the rooftop, his sword resting beside him. More a companion than a weapon now, he watches the stars emerge one by one, wondering if they appear in the same pattern in that other world, his world, where cities lie in ruins and hope has become as precious as water. Have you ever felt that strange peace that comes from being between places, neither here nor there, but somehow everywhere at once? For Trunks, time isn't a straight line anymore. It curves, loops, and sometimes folds back on itself, like the gentle wrinkles forming at the corners of his eyes when he smiles. Tonight, as crickets begin their evening song, he remembers something his mother once told him while repairing the time machine in candlelight. Time isn't just something to travel through, Trunks. It's something to feel, to understand. He spreads his fingers against the cool tiles of the roof, feeling the day's warmth still lingering there. How strange to touch something so ordinary after having touched the fabric of time itself. How strange to find that simple sensations, this tile, this breeze, this moment of quiet, could hold as much wonder as all his journeys across realities. I wonder, he whispers to himself, if we ever really understand the weight of a single peaceful moment until we've known its absence. Below him, lights flicker on in the compound. He can hear his mother's laughter, mingling with the clinking of dishes. In this timeline, where tragedy never struck as it did in his own, these small sounds of everyday life feel almost sacred. They carry an echo of what might have been, what should have been, for everyone he left behind. Could it be that the most powerful force isn't the energy we project outward, but the quietness we cultivate within, the ability to sit still between heartbeats, between timelines, between breaths? Trunks closes his eyes and listens to the world breathing around him. Time travelers know a secret that others don't, that every second of peace is its own universe, vast and worthy of protection. That sitting still, doing nothing but existing in gentleness, is perhaps the greatest rebellion against chaos. As the first stars fully emerge in the darkening sky, he remembers why he fights, why he travels, why he endures. Not for glory, not for power, but for moments exactly like this one, when the world grows quiet enough to hear its own heart beating, and time itself seems to pause, breathe, and smile. Morning light filters through tree branches, casting dappled shadows across Trunks' face as he sits at the edge of the forest. In the distance, Vegeta trains alone, a solitary figure moving with precise fury against invisible opponents. Trunks doesn't approach. Instead, he watches silently, a habit formed across timelines, observing this man who is his father, yet somehow isn't. Have you ever stood before a mirror that reflects not what is, but what might have been. For Trunks, Vegeta is such a mirror, reflecting both the absence that shaped his childhood and the presence he never dared hope for. He doesn't know how to be gentle. His mother from this timeline had told him once, her eyes soft, with a love Trunks was still learning to understand. But that doesn't mean he doesn't feel deeply. The morning breeze carries the sound of Vegeta's training, each punch splitting the air, each kick defying gravity. There's a language in these movements that Trunks has learned to read. Determination in every strike, pride in every stance, and something else, something that looks almost like fear, in the intensity of his father's focus. What is it like to discover that heroes have their own shadows? That strength sometimes grows from the darkest soil? In his own timeline, Trunks had built Vegeta from stories, a collection of his mother's memories and half-formed wishes. The real man before him now is both more and less than that construct. More complex, less perfect, more wounded, less certain, and somehow, in all those contradictions, more true. Trunks absently touches the scar that runs across his face, a marker of a battle fought in a world where this version of his father had already fallen. Does Vegeta ever wonder about that other future? Does he ever look at Trunks and see not just a son, but a witness to a life he never lived, a death he never died? We inherit more than blood. His mother, in the ruined future, had told him once, we inherit questions without answers. The sunlight strengthens, and Vegeta pauses his training, catching his breath. For just a moment, he turns his head slightly, acknowledging Trunks' presence without looking directly at him. A subtle nod that contains neither welcome nor rejection, but simple recognition. Could it be that true connection sometimes requires no words, that some bonds form in the spaces between sentences, in silent acknowledgments and shared solitude? Trunks doesn't move to join his father. Some distances aren't meant to be crossed, only honored. Instead, he remains still, a guardian of this moment of quiet understanding between a father who never was and a son who came from elsewhere. In the gentle morning light, they are simply two souls sharing the same patch of time, and perhaps that is enough. The setting sun paints the wasteland in shades of amber and gold as Trunks kneels on a rocky outcrop. In his hands, he holds a tattered orange bandana, faded by time, but preserved by memory. It belonged to Gohan, his mentor, his friend, his fallen brother in arm, from a timeline now existing only in his heart. Have you ever felt a presence so strongly that absence itself becomes a companion? For Trunks, Gohan's ghost walks beside him, even in worlds where a younger Gohan still lives, studying and smiling and untouched by the horrors that shaped his counterpart. I don't know if I've done right by your memory, Trunks whispers to the bandana, his voice barely audible above the evening wind. I've changed everything, but I still feel like I'm following your footsteps. The fabric is soft between his calloused fingers. How strange that something so delicate could have belonged to someone so strong. But then again, wasn't that always Gohan's nature? Strength wrapped in gentleness, power tempered by compassion. In this timeline, young Gohan has his father. He has peace. He has choices that the Gohan of Trunks' world never had. Sometimes, watching him, Trunks feels an ache that defies description. Not quite envy, not quite grief, but something that lives in the space between those emotions. Could it be that we carry alternate versions of those we love inside us? That somewhere in the universe of our hearts, every possible version of them exists simultaneously? The bandana catches the last rays of sunlight, glowing briefly, as if alive with ki. Trunks remembers the day Gohan gave it to him, after a training session where Trunks had finally managed to land a blow on his mentor. Gohan had laughed, bright and genuine, despite the dark world around them, and tied it around Trunks' arm. Not as a reward, he had said, but as a reminder that even in the darkest times, we choose what we fight for. Now, as twilight deepens around him, Trunks carefully folds the bandana and tucks it away close to his heart. The Gohan of this world may never know the sacrifice his other self made. He may never understand why Trunks sometimes watches him with eyes that seem too old for his face, and perhaps that's how it should be. Not all heroes are remembered. Some live only in the silent prayers of those they saved, in the quiet moments between battles, in the gentle folding of a faded orange bandana as night falls. Trunks rises to his feet, brushing dust from his knees. Above him, the first stars appear, constant across all timelines, witnessing all versions of all stories ever told. Thank you, he whispers, not to the stars, but to a memory that feels as real as the ground beneath his feet, for everything you were, for everything you never had the chance to be. Rain falls softly outside Capsule Corporation, each droplet a tiny mirror reflecting fragments of the world. Trunks sits by the window, watching as puddles form and ripple. His mother's notebooks spread before him, calculations, theories, the mathematics of miracle that made his journeys possible. Have you ever wondered what it means to carry knowledge no one should possess? To see the tapestry of fate and understand both its patterns and its frayed edges? Time isn't meant to be seen all at once. His mother had warned him before his first journey. It's like looking directly at the sun. It changes the way you see everything afterward. She was right. Now, even in moments of peace, Trunks carries the weight of multiple worlds, multiple outcomes, multiple griefs and joys that exist simultaneously in the chambers of his heart. He knows what could happen, what might happen, what, in another life, did happen. The rain intensifies, drumming against the glass, like gentle fingers asking to be let in. Trunks touches the cool surface of the window, tracing the path of a raindrop as it winds its way downward. Is this what the gods feel? This strange mixture of knowledge and powerlessness to see all paths, yet be bound by the rules of existence. Lightning flashes, briefly illuminating his reflection. Lavender hair, blue eyes, a face that belongs both here and elsewhere. In that momentary brightness, he sees not just himself, but all he represents. Hope sent backward, a messenger between doomed and saved worlds, a living paradox. I wonder, he says softly to the storm, if the raindrops know they're falling, if they understand their journey even as they're making it. His fingers find a particular page in his mother's notes, the one where she first theorized the possibility of temporal displacement. Her handwriting, normally so precise, had been hurried here, excited. Next to a complex equation, she'd written simply, if this is right, nothing is fixed. Nothing is fixed. 4 words that had changed everything, that had sent him hurtling across the boundaries of what should be possible. 4 words that had saved one world while leaving another to its fate. Could it be that our greatest strength lies not in changing what is written, but in writing anew what seemed unchangeable? The storm continues its gentle symphony against the window. Inside, warm light from a desk lamp creates a small circle of clarity amidst growing shadows. Trunks closes the notebooks, carefully stacking them together. Some knowledge isn't meant to be revisited too often, like memories of futures that will never come to pass. It must be honored then, gently set aside. Outside, between thunderclaps, nightbirds still sing. Even knowing what he knows, having seen what he's seen, there is comfort in their continuous song, a reminder that in all timelines, in all versions of the world, life persists in finding its voice. Spring has come to West City, and cherry blossoms drift like pink snow across the training grounds. Trunks moves through sword forms slowly, deliberately, each stance flowing into the next, like water finding its natural path. His blade catches the morning light, transforming steel into something that seems almost alive. Have you ever noticed how the most deadly things can also be the most beautiful? How the edge that cuts is also the edge that gleams. For Trunks, his sword is more than a weapon. It's a continuation of his arm, an extension of his will, a physical manifestation of his promise to protect. In a world of energy blasts and impossible power, there is something honest about the weight of metal in his hands. A sword doesn't lie, his future mother had told him when she first presented him with the blade. It can only be what it is, no more, no less. Remember that when you wield it. A cherry blossom lands on the flat of his blade. Trunks pauses mid-form, watching as the delicate pink petal rests there, fragile life balanced on an instrument of death. The contradiction isn't lost on him. In many ways, it mirrors his own existence. Beauty born from tragedy, hope forged in despair. He lowers the sword carefully, not wanting to disturb the petal. Around him, more blossoms fall, creating a gentle rain of pink against the blue spring sky. For a moment, he simply stands and breathes, allowing himself to exist within this perfect, temporary beauty. Could it be that the most profound lessons come not from battle, but from these quiet moments between conflicts? That true mastery is found not just in how we fight, but in how we pause. The breeze strengthens slightly, finally lifting the cherry blossom from his blade. Trunks watches it dance away, joining countless others in their brief, beautiful journey from branch to earth. There's a lesson here about impermanence, about letting go, about the cycle of fall and renewal that continues, regardless of which timeline one inhabits. He resumes his forms, but something has changed in his movement. There's a gentleness now, a fluidity that wasn't present before. His sword cuts the air, not with aggression, but with acceptance, each sweep acknowledging both its power to destroy and its capacity to protect. The strongest warriors, his mentor Gohan once told him, are those who understand what they're fighting for. Under the rain of cherry blossoms, Trunks moves like a man who carries this understanding in every cell of his body. His shadow dances across the petal-strewn ground, not the shadow of someone practicing for battle, but of someone honoring the peace that makes battle worthwhile. When he finally sheathes his sword, the sun has risen fully above the horizon. The day has begun in earnest. But something of this dawn moment, this perfect balance of beauty and vigilance, of softness and strength, will remain with him long after the last cherry blossom has fallen. Evening settles over Capsule Corporation's laboratory, where machines hum softly like mechanical lullabies. Trunks sits beside his mother, not the one who raised him in a broken world, but her counterpart in this saved timeline. Her hands move with practiced precision over circuit boards and tools, blue hair falling across her forehead as she works. Have you ever watched someone so familiar, yet so different, that your heart feels caught between recognition and discovery? For Trunks, observing this version of his mother is like watching a familiar song being played in a different key, the melody recognizable, but the resonance altered. "Hand me that calibrator, would you?" she asks, not looking up from her work. He places the tool in her outstretched hand, noting the absence of certain scars that his own mother's hands had carried, marks from years of building hope, from scavenged parts in a world where each day was uncertain. "You're quiet tonight," she observes, finally glancing up, with eyes that see more than she lets on. "Thinking about home?" Home, such a simple word for such a complex concept. Is home the ruined future he left behind? This healed timeline where he exists as a welcome anomaly? Or is home something less tangible, a feeling carried inside regardless of which reality surrounds him? "Just watching you work," he answers softly. "It's comforting." She smiles, And in that smile, he sees echoes of his own mother, the same determination, the same intelligence, the same capacity for love that transcends logic and science. Different circumstances have shaped her, softened certain edges, while perhaps sharpening others. But at her core, she remains the woman who believed time itself could be rewritten when the world said it couldn't. Could it be that the truest parts of us remain constant across all possible versions of our lives? That beneath the layers of experience, there exists an unchangeable essence? You know, she says, returning to her work. Sometimes I look at you and I see this amazing future I haven't built yet. And other times, she pauses, searching for words. Other times I see a past that, thanks to you, I'll never have to endure. The laboratory lights cast soft blue shadows across her face, highlighting the gentle lines around her eyes. Lines formed from laughter rather than worry in this timeline. Trunks watches her hands as they move with precise grace among wires and metal, creating order from complexity. His mother had always been a builder of machines, of futures, of hope. When hope seemed irrational, both versions of her shared this quality, this refusal to accept impossibility as anything other than a challenge. She would be proud, he says suddenly, the words escaping before he can consider them. The other you, she would be proud of what you've built here. Her hands pause for just a moment, and when she looks up, her eyes shine with understanding. And I'm proud of what she built, she replies simply. You. Outside the laboratory window, stars begin to appear in the deepening blue of evening. Trunks feels a strange peace settle over him, not the absence of grief for what was lost, but the presence of gratitude for what remained, for what has been saved, for the woman beside him who is both familiar stranger and beloved constant. In the gentle hum of machines building tomorrow, he finds a truth that spans all timelines, that love, like time itself, finds a way to continue its flow, regardless of the paths it must forge to do so. Dawn breaks over the mountains as Trunks sits cross-legged at their peak, watching the same sun rise over two different worlds in his mind's eye. In one, it illuminates rebuilding cities, people emerging from years of terror into tentative hope. In the other, this one, it shines on peaceful towns where the greatest concerns are ordinary and everyday. Have you ever held two realities in your heart at once, felt the weight and wonder of parallel lives running through your consciousness like rivers that never quite meet? The morning air is crisp with possibility. Trunks breathes it in deeply, feeling it fill his lungs, cool and clean. Here, high above the world, the boundary between timelines seems thinner somehow, as if all possible versions of existence converge at these quiet heights. I used to dream of ordinary days, he whispers to the sunrise. Now I dream of the extraordinary ones. Below, the world is waking. Distant figures move through fields. Cars travel along winding roads. Smoke rises from chimneys in lazy spirals. Normal life unfolding in all its mundane glory. The victory he fought for. The miracle he helped create. Yet in his dreams, he still returns to that other world. Not to its horrors, but to its rawness. Its fierce appreciation for each moment of safety. Each breath not taken in fear. There was a clarity there, stripping away of everything non-essential until only the most fundamental truths remained. Could it be that we only truly see the stars when darkness surrounds them? That certain wisdoms can only be forged in the absence of comfort? The sun rises higher, bathing the mountainside in golden light. Trunks uncrosses his legs and stands, stretching muscles that have grown stiff with meditation. From this vantage point, he can see for miles in every direction, a panorama of peace that once existed only in stories told by survivors around scavenged fires. He reaches out, palm flat against the empty air, as if he could touch that other timeline across the divide of possibility. Sometimes he wonders if his other self, the infant growing up in this world of peace, will ever understand the gift he's been given, if he'll ever know how many lives were sacrificed so that his could unfold without shadow. Perhaps it's better if he doesn't, Trunks murmurs to himself. Perhaps that's the whole point. A hawk circles overhead, riding the thermal currents with effortless grace. Trunks watches its flight, remembering something his mentor Gohan once said during a rare moment of peace in their ruined world. Freedom isn't the absence of limits, it's having the space to discover what truly matters within them. The sun continues its ancient journey across the sky, the same sun that has witnessed every timeline, every possibility, every version of every story ever lived. Under its steady gaze, Trunks begins his descent from the mountain, moving with the measured pace of someone who understands that even in a world without urgency, each step still matters. Behind him, his shadow stretches long against the mountainside, a single shadow bridging two worlds, carrying memories of both, belonging completely to neither, yet somehow essential to both their stories. Night has fallen over Capsule Corporation. Trunks sits on the roof once more, completing the circle of our story. Though he is not the same as when we began, the sword rests beside him, the stars shine above, but something has shifted in the space between heartbeats, a settling, perhaps, or an acceptance. Have you ever felt time slow down until you could almost step outside its flow? Until you could see your life not as a linear journey, but as a constellation of moments, each shining with its own significance. For Trunks, who has moved through time in ways others can only imagine, this feeling comes most strongly in stillness, in the quiet between breaths, in moments like this one, where the boundary between observer and observed grows thin enough to pass through. I've been thinking about ghosts, he says softly to the night sky. Not the kind that haunt old houses, but the kind we carry within us. The selves we might have been, the lives we didn't live. The stars offer no answer, but in their silence there is companionship. They too are travelers between worlds, their light journeying across vast distances to reach his eyes, arriving from a past that exists simultaneously with his present. Trunks places his hand over his heart, feeling its steady rhythm beneath his palm. Each beat marks the passage of time, yet also defies it, a continuous return, a perpetual beginning. Could it be that the most profound journeys are not those that take us across space or time, but those that lead us deeper into the mystery of being present, of fully inhabiting this breath, this moment, this exact confluence of existence? Below, the lights of the compound have dimmed. His mother sleeps, as does the infant version of himself, the child who will grow into a different man than he became, shaped by peace rather than desperation. Somewhere out there, Vegeta and Goku and all the others continue their own journeys, each carrying their own constellation of possibilities. I am a contradiction, Trunks whispers, not with sadness, but with wonder. A future that exists because it was prevented, a warning that was heeded. And isn't there something beautiful in that paradox, in being both necessary and impossible, in existing at the crossroads of what was, what is, and what might be? The night deepens around him, stars multiplying across the velvet darkness. Trunks leans back, allowing his body to rest fully against the roof tiles, his eyes wide open to the cosmos above. There is peace in this surrender, not the peace of forgetting, but the peace that comes from holding everything, loss and gain, grief and joy, past and future. Perhaps, he murmurs, this is what it means to be whole, not to resolve all contradictions, but to house them gently, to let them teach us how vast we truly are. A shooting star traces a brief, brilliant path across the heavens. Trunks watches it disappear, carrying with it an unspoken wish, not for himself, but for all possible versions of all possible worlds. The night air caresses his face like a benediction. Tomorrow will come with its own challenges, its own wonders. But for now, in this moment between heartbeats, the time traveler is simply here, present, awake, alive to the miracle of existing in a world saved by love. And perhaps, dear listener, as sleep begins to claim you, you might remember this, that even across the boundaries of time, across the divide between story and reality, across the threshold between waking and dreams, we are all travelers together, all carrying worlds within worlds, all learning, breath by breath, the quiet power of peace. Rest now. The journey continues, even in sleep.